Connor and I broke up sometime around January. This isn't about him. Well, okay. I know you're gonna find this hard to believe, but he broke up with me, but give it another month or so, I probably would have broken up with him. The relationship had just reached that point, where no one's really at fault. It's just over. It's over. Deal with it. You go your separate ways. He had just reached that fork in the road a bit sooner than I had. And yeah, I was sad at first, but I don't miss. Okay, this isn't going to be one of those stories where you get to blame it on the psychosis of the... This isn't about him, Connor. This isn't his story. He's more on the periphery of floating around in the edges. It's a good place for him. The periphery. No, I'm fine. I am. And I don't want to bring him up, but I have to bring him up because although he wasn't there for the ghostly part of he was the one who first pointed out of my window and said, looks like a hanging tree. Pause for effect. This statement will become relevant in a few moments. I had just bought a new house and Connor was helping me move. And what he was referring to was that if you look out of my bedroom window, there's a small clearing where the back of the house meets the woods. And in the middle of that clearing is a large, squat sycamore tree with big, thick branches that hang about 10 feet off the ground, which is the perfect height to hang someone from. These are the kind of things that Connor would notice and point out on a daily basis, which is probably why it's a good thing that he's out of my life. Anywho, I should probably mention that my house is one of those old New England style houses that looks like it was built in a time where public hangings occurred anytime a local woman gave a funny look. Everything in the house is just old. It's like we knew if we removed the floor and the wallboards, you'd find rot underneath. So we just leave it there in the hopes that you die before the rot becomes noticeable, and by then it's the new owner's problem. Practically guaranteed to be haunted. And here's the trick, and this is why it's so important for you to believe me when I say that the breakup had nothing to do with this, is because there was no connection. It's not like he broke up with me and I started seeing this ghost or whatever it is the next day. The first event didn't occur on an anniversary or even his favorite day of the week. It was just a day in March. And on that day in March, I woke up around sunrise and I opened my eyes and I saw the tree in the distance, and the thought, it's hanging day, just pops into my head. Like there was no control or build up or anything. It just ping, it's hanging day. And I thought to myself, what the hell does that mean? Hanging day, odd thought to have. And I turn over in bed to look away from the tree, and there, in the middle of my bedroom, was a man hanging by his neck from the rafters. Pause for effect. And yes, I'll say it again. I turned over in bed and saw a man hanging from a noose with the other end tied to the ceiling. Like a chandelier. And he was so still. Like that's the most, his body wasn't swinging or anything, just a straight line down. As if he had been hanging there for a while I slept 5 feet away. And I saw his face. I got a good look at him, and he wasn't anyone I knew. No one I recognized. He was a dead stranger hanging in my bedroom. So, what does one do with this information? Really, I'm asking. And before you give me the whole "you were still asleep" crap, let me tell you what I did, which was to sit up, so startled out of bed, hit the floor hard, and I get up and he's still there, the hanging man. And so I reached for my phone and I missed dial 911 because my hands are shaking so badly, and I look back up and he's gone. Vanished, like not a pop or a ping, just gone. And so you rationalize it, right? Your first ghost sighting. You tell yourself, I was dreaming, I imagined it. I must have been wrong. And it doesn't take long. After a while, this thing that feels like so real and so immediate in the moment starts to dissipate, like smoke from a match that's been waved out. An hour later, it's less real. An hour later, more so. By the time you get to lunch, the memory's on par with your first kiss in high school. It's all smoke. So that's what happened the first day. This wouldn't be a story, though, a proper story, if it only happened once. The next day, the same thing happens. I wake up, see the tree, it's hanging day. What does that mean? I turn around and there he is again, the hanging man. I don't fall out of bed this time. I press myself up against the headboard and my brain goes into panic mode and starts repeating, "You're dreaming, you're dreaming, you're dreaming, you're dreaming, you're dreaming, you're dreaming." And this thing, this body, it's so still, it's like looking at a photograph. And it can't be real, it can't be. And so I grab my alarm clock and I hurl it at the body, expecting it to just pass through and disappear, because this thing can't actually be here. It can't actually be in my bedroom. But it doesn't. The alarm clock hits the body, bounces back, and the body begins to swing. There's even a little creak noise from the rafters as it swings. And so I clench my hands up into fists and I close my eyes tightly and I scream at the top of my lungs, "Go away!" And it does. I open my eyes and the hanging man is gone. I've never done any research into the history of the house. I don't know. I didn't want to read about some previous owner's son who'd killed himself in my bedroom. Or some jealous lover driven to suicide. Because reading those things would mean that seeing this was a real possibility. I mean, I think that's why I didn't move at first. Moving would mean acknowledging that it had happened. But I have to move. I saw a ghost. Who does that? After the first 2 days, this thing, ghost, never appeared with any sort of regularity. I mean, he always arrived in the morning, and never for longer than 5 minutes, but never with any sort of reliable schedule. Like I would see him for 2 days, and then he'd be gone for a week. And then for a month, I saw him every other day, and then he'd be gone for 4 days, then for a week, then for 3. I'd wake up every morning just terrified, out of my mind, and then by noon the memory fades and I'm thinking to myself, what was the big deal again? The days he wasn't there, I mean, Christ almighty, I don't see him, but I sense him. I feel him somewhere in the house, just beyond my reach. He's there. I tell you, he's there. I mean, why don't I get someone? You know? Why don't I get someone, not Connor, fuck him, but someone to just be there and tell me, you're right. You know, I see it too. You're not crazy. Why don't I get someone? I brought a guy home once. Not because I liked him. He was overweight and reeked of cigarettes and was a bit too into nipple play for my taste. I just needed him there in the morning. I made the noises while he fucked me. Of course, our hanging friend didn't make an appearance that morning, but hey, at least I got a case of crabs out of it. So you learn to live with it. The ache. The hole he leaves. I haven't seen my hanging man in about a week. We're in a lull. His last appearance on Monday. Okay. I wake up, see the tree. It's hanging day. I turn over and there he is. Only he's not hanging from the ceiling this time. He's laying in bed next to me. The noose is still around his neck. The loose end isn't tied to the ceiling. It's dangling off the edge of the bed. There's a second smile where the rope had rubbed his neck raw. His eyes are open. And this is the first time I actually get to look into them. They're dark and kind looking. In fact, I'm realizing he's actually kind of nice looking. With a smile that's warm. Who knew? As we lay there, gazing at each other, he reaches over and places one hand on my cheek. It's cold. He leans in and kisses me. His tongue is likewise cold, but his spit is sweet. I reach over and place my hand on his cheek, and the whole thing is kind of wonderful. Isn't it odd? I blink and he's gone. Like every other morning. I'm alone in bed. I don't sense him in the house anymore. My eyes are wet. I had been crying. Postscript, I have decided to move. The house is too empty. It's really too big for me. I'm gonna find a house that's smaller. I don't worry about the hanging man. I don't think this thing will follow me. I mean, he can't. Right?